Hey friends. Oh lord, where do I even begin? Mario and Luigi Brothership. I really don't know how to start, so let's look at the positives first. It is visually pretty. I really do like this game's art style. Backgrounds are colorful and vibrant, and the character expressions are on point. I really love the battle gameplay. I never finished a Mario and Luigi game prior to this one, and I really love the battle system. It's so cool. The Luigi logic in the boss fights, the brothers attacks, the battle plug system. The game's performance is fine. The frame rate can dip a lot in some places, but it runs fine. And unfortunately, that's where my positives for this game end. I'm sorry, I was not a huge fan of this game.
Oh, brother, this guy.
I did like the first half of the game. It's probably a 7 out of 10 at most. First of all, the side characters are just kind of fine. They function. Connie is fine, Technicky is fine, Snoutlet is fine. They're all just kind of fine. They're all forgettable, but they're not bad characters in the slightest. They do, in fact, function. But good lord, this game really drops off in the second half. The pacing in the entire game is horrible. This game is way too lengthy. I get it, JRPGs are super long. Persona 5 Royal is one of, if not my favorite game of all time, and that lasts for 90 hours. That game admittedly also has some slow pacing at times, but at least it takes its time to endear us to all the characters and give them each an arc. This game uses its long length to its advantage to develop the story and characters. But Mario and Luigi Brothership doesn't really do that. It tries to develop its characters, sure, but the story is so underbaked that it's insane. Most of the third act is just dedicated to solving side characters' personal problems instead of actually saving the world like we need to. Why do we have to play this dancing rhythm game multiple times? Now is not the time to dance, dumbass. We have to save the world. In the last 10 hours or so in the game, the pacing just comes to a complete halt. There are so many required side quests and poorly designed puzzles that I nearly quit playing the game before I even got close to the final boss. Most of the third act just feels like unnecessary filler made only to pad out the runtime. And don't even get me started on the final dungeon of the game. I'm not going to give any major spoilers to the story, but the final dungeon of the game just has so many poorly designed puzzles and unfair bullcrap. Call it a skill issue all you want, but I've had to restart each puzzle multiple times because some dumbass force of nature decides to take Luigi or Mario away from each other. So many poor design choices force me to restart puzzles multiple times each. Every time I would move a few pixels, there would be a million enemies on my ass constantly. There was one instance where I was really close to a shortcut, but then an enemy tried killing Luigi, and then he was taken away from me, so I had to go all the way back to the start and go through this entire giant room all over again. The main reasons I kept trying to avoid the enemies in that dungeon was because I was super low on health and wanted to save it all for the final boss. And the horrible pacing of this entire game left me super antsy in my seat by the time that this dungeon came around. I swear to God, I wanted to quit so badly when I got to this final dungeon. The entire third act just felt like an endurance test. I was just so ready to fight this final boss and get through to the end of the game, and it didn't even wrap up until 10 hours later. This is some of the worst pacing I have ever seen in any video game I've ever played. The first half of the game had decent pacing already, even if it was a bit too slow. Why the hell would you make the game any slower? The second half of this game is one of the most frustrating games I have ever played. Games like Crash Bandicoot and I Am Fish are much harder than this game, but at least those games are paced well, don't have god-awful design choices, and can be fair. The second half, and especially the third act of Mario and Luigi Brothership, feels like a chore. It is one of the most tedious gameplay experiences that I have ever had. I'm sorry about the tangent, but I really had to talk about this game in detail. This game went from a 7 out of 10 to a 5 to nearly a 4, and then back to 5. The first half of the game was pretty solid, nothing really all that special, but the second half was atrocious. While the game is visually pretty and I really love the battle system and the music, The bland story, terrible pacing, and some god-awful decisions really hurt the game. It's not the worst game I've ever played, not by a long shot, but to me, it's probably the most disappointing game of 2024. I really tried. I really wanted to like this game. I wanted to love it even. But as a semi-outsider to the Mario & Luigi franchise, this has kinda turned me off from playing any other Mario & Luigi game that came out before this one. I'm glad that the Mario & Luigi series is a fan favorite, but I just don't really think it's my thing. I really wanted to like it. Maybe I could play one of the Alpha Dream games in the future, but if this is the direction that the franchise is going, then county out. Mario & Luigi Brothership isn't a bad game. I could see why one would like it, but I just didn't really enjoy it all that much. I finished the game in 31.5 hours, but I can't really give it a score any higher than a 5 out of 10. I don't know if this is a controversial take of mine, but I just didn't really enjoy this game as much as I really wanted to. But at least I gave it an attempt, I guess. I'll see y'all later. I hope you liked this video, and thank you for 600 subscribers.